Okay, well, let's quickly get a few more questions in before our watch
quick.
along.
You got to be quick.
This next one was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Dennis Eaton in Austin. To borrow a phrase from Vince McMahon, here is some mental masturbation for you. If hypothetically, Ted DiBiase never joined the WWF in the 1980s, who do you think could have taken and successfully carried the $1 Million Man gimmick? And then he lists a few names here, so I'll give you these names if you think it's one of them or potentially someone else. But Terry Taylor, Gino Hernandez, Robert Fuller, Ron Fuller, and it says especially if he played the character in the vein of Ted Turner, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Nick Bockwinkel.
Okay, well, immediately take the Fuller brothers out of the equation because I don't think that Ron or Robert Fuller and Vince McMahon would be able to coexist on a regular basis, especially if one of them was trying to do Vince's favorite gimmick that he created at that point. He was high on that one. And also he would not have liked Robert Fuller, one of the greatest fucking interviews ever, hilarious and fucking just wild, and he would have hated the Southern accent, Vince would have. And I think Ron would have decided that hockey was considerably less of a fucking headache. No, Ric Flair wasn't going to take that gimmick because at the time Ric Flair was Ric Flair, and you couldn't change that. Honestly, of all the people that were mentioned, it was a Tully and a Gino thing because that was really kind of an offshoot of what Tully and Gino were doing when they were partners in Texas. The suits, the sports cars. Gino lived like he was rich, even if he wasn't. And Tully gave off the vibe of being the jock son of the, famous wrestler promoter. So, I mean, I don't know if either one of them, obviously Gino wasn't alive by that point. And Tully, was still in WCW or in the NWA WCW, and then, got jacked around by Herd, but they would have fit that gimmick and been able to carry off that personality better. Was there anybody else on that list I missed?
What about Bockwinkel? That was on the list. Because
Nick, by that point, he retired the same year DiBiase became the $1 Million Man, didn't he?
Nick 87, I guess so. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Nick was not only established, but was ready to retire. He wouldn't have taken on a new gimmick if he'd been offered it to him. And Nick was an intelligent man and realistic enough to know that with him in his mid-50s at that point, to take a new gimmick and go on the road with the WWF. I mean, I'm acting like he was ever offered this, but no, that would have not worked. And also Nick was established, and Nick wasn't about the money and rubbing it in that he was a playboy or that he lived in mansions or had sports cars or whatever. He was a very cerebral, intellectual, elitist kind of person like that did those interviews where he made people mad because he used words they didn't understand. It wasn't the same thing, and he wasn't that same kind of person. Even if he was younger, he wouldn't have fit that gimmick like a Tully or a Gino, who it was actually that the $1 Million Man gimmick is closer to who Tully Blanchard and or Gino Hernandez were in real life than who Ted DiBiase was. Ted just made it work.
Also on the list was Terry Taylor.
Yeah. No, because then if Terry had that gimmick, he would have made seeming like a rich millionaire boring. Terry, he had nothing whatsoever in common to do with any of that. Terry was, to me, a great babyface on his own. As a single, he was a tremendous in-ring babyface performer, great shape, great looking, pussy magnet. Matter of fact, Dundee used to say about Terry Taylor, if you busted his head open, little pussies would fall out. But as a heel, he wasn't the top guy. And as a heel, he was either on the card or he could have been a good heel as a tag team guy. I didn't see him because his promos weren't strong enough, and he just didn't bring that heel oomph to something like that. No, I don't think that would have fit.
So you think DiBiase was the perfect guy for the role?
Yeah, really. I mean, well, he made it. He wasn't maybe, as we said, the only perfect one, but of course, Tully and Gino, neither one were available for different reasons, including death. But and maybe there's somebody else that I'm not thinking of that if you looked at it with a critical eye, wow, he would have been a great choice. But it's just hard now to see anybody else but Ted doing that. And because of one thing, the promo was so good. Ted's promos as a babyface were okay, but as a heel, they were great. And he could work in any position, but it was the oomph of the gimmick that really, made him a big star at that point.
Well, here's another question for you. All the joking about him aside, do you think Virgil, the wrestler we know as Virgil, was the perfect guy for that role?
I mean, he did it well. I can't say that anybody else couldn't have done it. The best I can say is he did it well, but it's not like anybody else couldn't have done that, being serious.
Do you remember any reaction at all when all of a sudden he showed up on Nitro as Vincent?
No.
No.
Wait a minute, you mean from Office or
from
fans?
The Office? You were working for the World Wrestling Federation.
That's what I meant. There was that nobody gave a shit, Office or fans. There may have been a tickle in the Office, kind of like, that was about it.